Life comes with a lot of decisions, and it can be hard to know the right path sometimes. A therapist can help you map out what you really want, so you trust yourself to make great choices and feel excited about the future. BetterHelp offers convenient professional online therapy on your schedule, however you want it, by phone, chat, or video call. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/positive today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/positive.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily here on KFH. By the way, congratulations to Adam for winning our HTO giveaway. In the spirit of giveaway, let's do some WinSurge vouchers right now to our first caller. A 4-pack of WinSurge vouchers. You get to pick the game. You call in. Jad will get you a winner. You select it. Those vouchers will redeem 869-1240 to the IHOP hotline, and we'll start that contest right now as Paul and I take a look at the politicians trying to regulate NIL. I think we all agree that some sort of regulation is needed here. I think that, the power players in the world of college athletics have clearly reached out to, representatives to try and help this. We saw Jerry Moran, senator here from Kansas, come together with a couple of Democrats. He's a Republican, so bipartisan, right, to standardize these NIL rules. Now, yesterday, we also get another bipartisan effort. Joe Manchin, who apparently played football at West Virginia, a Democrat, and Tommy Tuberville, of course, an outspoken former football coach who's now a senator on the Republican side. So 2 different bipartisan things, Paul, tells me that there is a universal effort in Washington to do something about this, right? And so from what I can tell in these 2 proposals, the keys are providing some sort of health insurance for athletes even after they play for a little while. That seems to be in both places in some form or fashion. Regulating the NIL in how it's used and making it not a pay for play, not a direct, hey, a booster is going to just basically pay a kid a ton of money to go here, which it's happening now. And then the other part of it that's interesting, and the difference, I think, from what I can tell between these 2 different separate proposals, is the Jerry Moran-led proposal would have a secondary organization regulate this, and the one yesterday on the Tuberville side would have the NCAA take this on. But very similar in scope with some detailed differences like that. There's an appetite for this across college sports, Paul. So something's probably going to happen. The reason they want, federal legislators involved is because they want it universal among states, right? They don't want different states to have different rules. And I get all that. And I think that's probably necessary, right? There has to be some regulation of it. But the problem, Paul, is always going to be, if in any way this is just put in place to limit what the athletes can earn, then you've got the same old problem we've always had, right? You can't have the universities make money hand over fist and not have the athletes have the opportunity to get that unless you're going to revenue share, which they're not going to do. So I don't know how you navigate those 2 different things, right? Like, yes, we need some universal rules. I'm all for getting, health coverage for these guys, but I'm not all for capping essentially what the athletes can earn, because I don't believe in that at all.
So we've got to make a decision. Do we want government or the schools to hop in and start overseeing everything? Well, how did the NCAA do, Jacob? How good were they at being that?
Yeah, I don't like the idea of the NCAA doing it.
No, I know, but the point is that they were supposedly the great all-seers and arbiters and those that know right from wrong and can handle these situations, and they stunk at it. They stunk. So when you look at it in terms of finding somebody to oversee this stuff, sometimes the free market's just kind of the best thing. We're running some commercials here on I believe on Sports Daily or even KFH and KNSS, I've heard it where they talk about Ronald Reagan used to say, one of his sayings was, "Hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to help." And you know something? That's scary. You don't need the government. Moran needs to butt out. Tuberville needs to butt out. And from Tuberville, this is about keeping other schools down, not letting them get to the echelon of an Auburn where he was for a lot of his career at that higher echelon. You know, you get the government involved, it'd be easier for Auburns and Alabamas to stay on top. If it's unless it's turned over to free enterprise, you know, it'll give the smaller schools a chance to compete, go get those kind of dollars and do what they need to do. But when they're overseen by somebody, some entity, there's a problem. All I'm saying is you can't be shocked or surprised. The whole thing that Jacob Albrock used to talk about was to give these kids a chance to make as much money as they can in the free market. And it took me a while to come around to that, but I am all for that. I've seen it. I've tasted it. I'm glad to see these kids getting some money out of this thing, at least certain kids, not all kids, obviously. So I'm for it. I don't want to see Big Daddy come in and start telling people what they can do and what they can't do. But they make it look better. Oh, we're all for the kids. We want insurance for them. We want good health for them. Oh, we're so benevolent and we're going to be their saviors and take care of them. That's baloney. That is total baloney. So I'm totally against this. Let the free enterprise reign. Let it go. Get these kids, make their deals. Let them make their deals and be done with it.
Paul, we saw TCU play in a national championship game in football.
Right.
We saw San Diego State play in a national championship game in basketball.
Correct.
Florida Atlantic in the Final Four.
Right.
Miami in the Final Four.
Gotcha.
And UConn win a national championship.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So I'm with you. Like,
Thank you.
There are people that spend a lot of money. Now, I'm not, I'm with you. There are people from these places that spend a lot of money to fund campaigns for a lot of these politicians, right? And so it's easy to get their attention at this level, right? It's really easy for somebody to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, man, we got to do something about this," right? Like, let's not be naive here. Now, the reality is the Wild West of it, and, I'm looking at an AP article because I'm trying to look at this without the slant that sometimes happens with some of these like cable news outlets. But there is a disclosure component of this. There needs to be a disclosure of how much money athletes make. I have no problem with that because I have to disclose how much money I make. Right?
I'm with you.
The under the table aspect of it, that's got to get regulated out, right? Like, how much money did you make? Here it is. Pay your taxes on it like everybody else. We'll all move on with our lives. Capping what you can make, I don't agree with at all. I don't have an issue with universities, by the way, either running these collectives. I don't mind putting the onus on the universities and then they just need to report it. That seems like the simplest way to me, but there's also a component of transfer. And like they want you to finish 3 years of your education before you can transfer. But again, that doesn't make any sense to me because you don't have that requirement for other students on campus, right? If I'm a band student, I don't have to, like, I can go I can leave and go anywhere else. So there's not transfer regulations on a band student or an art student or a music student or an education student or a, engineering student or whatever. They can go wherever they want, whenever they want to better their future prospects. So you can't do that to athletes. Like, you cannot do that unless, Paul, different than a scholarship, you have some sort of financial contract in place that says, okay, you're a student, you sign this agreement, here's how much money you're going to earn. You cannot get out of that contract without paying a penalty for 3 years. You have to complete 3 educational years before you can leave this contract and move on. Sign the contract or not, or you'll pay a penalty. Again, that's the way the rest of us work. I don't have a problem with that. I have no issue with that whatsoever. You have signed a financial agreement at that point. Here's how much you're going to make based on XYZ. We have these people willing to pay you this. Now, that doesn't include endorsements because there's never a way that's going to make sense to me to tell a kid they can't take an endorsement, right? That doesn't make any sense at all. Unless it's, again, a part of that financial agreement. You can't take any endorsements. Here's what you have to do, whatever. But you can't limit in that contract how much you want to wait. If somebody says, we want to pay this kid $1 million, okay, take that through the university. The university puts pen to paper. It says, here's the disclosure. This kid's going to make $1 million from this fund, which, was funded by this person. And here's our agreement. You can't leave. You're under contract. You can't leave for 3 years. And then you can essentially become a free agent. You have to either make it more of a pro model or not. You can't half-ass it. You can't make it a pro model that benefits only the universities and, whatever, that doesn't benefit the player at all. You can't have it both ways. You got to have it one way or the other. You can either have an amateur component where kids can make as much money as they can on the open market through endorsements and whatever, just like every other student on campus, right? There's no rule that a trombone company can't go and pay some kid to use his trombone. Like, there are no rules against that. But in athletics, there are. So you either make it a pro model or you make it an amateur model. But you can't do both. You got to have it, you got to have it one way. And I don't mind making it a pro model because it is pro sports. Right? It is. People pay to go see these athletes play, and they are professionals. So one or the other, Paul. You can't have both, though. It will never make sense to try to do it that way.
But therein lies the reason that government exists, and that's to stick their nose in everything. They can't sit back.
Well, there is a need for regulation. Look, there's a need for regulation in a lot. We got to regulate AI so robots don't take over the world, Paul. We should have regulated social media a long time ago so it doesn't get out of control like it is now.
Second.
There's a need for regulation.
No, free speech. Now, I'm not going to let you get away with that one. Free speech is very important, and you can't regulate, social media and that stuff. I'm a free speech guy. I'm a First Amendment guy, and I know you are too because you're involved in the media and your rights to be able to.
But Paul, the government has a responsibility to make sure bad things aren't happening there that put people in danger. We don't need pedophiles running free on social media.
About. That's not.
What I'm saying is there's always a place for regulation, but you can't. You have to be careful in what you want and how far that goes.
Okay.
I struggle with that balance, Paul, all the time. Like, philosophically, I struggle with it all the time because I look at things and I'm like, well, how did that get so let out of control?
Right. I'm with you.
Why do I pay this much for medicine? Why does a simple medical procedure lead to 5 months worth of bills? Like, there's things where you look at it and you're like, God, how can we let that happen? And then on the other side of it is the other way. Well, you don't want to be limited either. So I do struggle with that.
Right.
I have sympathy to the complexity of this situation, but there is simplicity in not capping what athletes can earn when you don't cap what universities can earn.
Right.
Unless you're going to revenue share, you can't do that.
Well, on first blush, do you think these student athletes would be better off with somebody like the NCAA or the United States government overseeing what they're doing?
The government's not going to oversee it. The government's going to put it on somebody else. The government's not going to sit there and say, all right, all they care about is that you disclose how much money you make so you can pay your taxes.
They're going to mandate it. Now, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They're going to mandate because obviously governments get involved because they want to mandate that somebody oversees it. And you're right, it's not going to be them, but they're going to mandate more than likely the university or a department within the university or the athletic department within the university. And then there's no chance of it being screwed up, right? That was sarcastic, by the way. But the point is that government will become involved and tell us what needs to be done. And quite frankly, I think I'm past all of that. I haven't heard of any true abuses of the system, and it might be because how can you abuse the system when the kids can get whatever they can get? I don't know how you could
because it's not being disclosed. Look,
that's another thing. Being disclosed
to me, you can just if everything funnels through the university's going to know where the money's coming from. It gets disclosed. I don't know how you ever. I mean, you can say we don't want any money going under the table, but money goes under the table all across the world, more than just in college athletics. Yeah. You can do the best you can, right? You can do, but what will what will help facilitate less money going under the table, Paul?
Tell me.
if you just allow it to be exchanged freely.
Well,
you know, this booster, this donor, this company wants to contribute X amount of dollars to this kid. You facilitate it through the university. The university lets the IRS or whoever know, hey,
Bingo.
This is how much this kid made.
Okay.
The kid pays his taxes. We all move on with our lives, right? It's not that complicated.
That's not the kind of disclosure I'm talking about. You got to pay your taxes. You and I are big boys. We know you got to pay your taxes, and all these athletes need to pay their taxes too. I'm for that, but not getting the university involved in any other aspect of the entire situation.
Well, I'd rather have the universities directly involved than the NCAA because they're not equipped to do it.
I'm with you on that as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have found a lot of agreement.
I don't know.
Yes.
But this is just keep your eye on this because you're seeing all sorts of bipartisan cooperation on this, which means it's going to get done, right? And which means
we think so.
The right people are pushing the buttons of these federal politicians, and it's like, hey, we want to see something done. It's going to get done.
Right.
What it looks like, I think, is what will get massaged out. And look, I'm willing to be an optimist and hope that we can work to the similar conclusion. There'll be, Paul, we're coming into a political year. There'll be lots of opportunities for politicians to dunk on this and say, hey, look at this great thing we did and win a lot of brownie points and all that stuff. So the timing isn't bad to get something hopefully done that's, that benefits everybody. We'll see. 869-1240 is the number to call here on Sports Daily. Paul and I will be back. Plenty more to discuss here. Major League Baseball trade deadline rolling forward. All kinds of news and realignment. It is a crazy day here on the show. We'll be right back with more.